No mai haere mai e te whānau. Welcome to the Flight of the Next podcast. I'm here on Gadigal Land in Sydney. We have Alex in Te Whanganui Atara, Wellington, and in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, we have Erin. Quite a few matches to get through today. We'll talk about the two men's matches and the two women's matches since we've last been able to record. But we'll start with the worst match of all of them, just to get it out of the way, I suppose. Men versus Melbourne victory. The Amy Park curse is still very much alive. McCarron started, I think he was very poor in this game, and saying that he's young and he doesn't, deserve to be abused, because some of that has, people were having a go at him. And we will talk about how good he was in the Brisbane game, but he really struggled. And the defence didn't help with that. So, 7th minute, victory score, Virgos from a header from a Velupale cross. The defending was sloppy. 29th, we thought we would back into it. A goal to Rami Najarine. Davidson just makes a colossal mistake at the back. Maybe one of the easiest goals that Rami is going to score in his life. Then things fell apart. Another goal to Virgos from a cross from Rawlins. Minute, Rufer just loses him completely. 47th minute, another Virgos goal for his hat-trick. 55th, Santos gets in on it, totally unmarked on the left. 20th minute, Galasic. McCarron comes out and just sort of gets caught. So 5-1 loss. It felt good in the 29th minute where we felt like, okay, we're back in the game, but in the end it was actually pretty embarrassing. The midfield just got outplayed and we just let them run at our defence, and our defence had a little bit of uncertainty to it, and particularly with an inexperienced keeper. Who has something to say against the 5-1 thumping?
Yeah, I think I kind of got 2 points. The first is, we moved away from the super aggressive high line, as lots of people were asking. We've kind of done it gradually, but I think this is like the biggest shift, and I actually think we moved too far away from it. All this talk about please stop the high line, please stop the high line, and I kind of wanted to say, can we go back to the high line in this game? We gave up too much territory, and a team who are good on the ball like Victory, good players, they were always going to punish us. Midfield three were working overtime trying to keep up with Victory's midfield, and we were pushed back way too often just because we had no answer, and Victory could bypass our press entirely. And the second one is just the quality of defending in the box. It was horrible, to be honest. People putting the blame on Amon, saying he should have done better to save some shots. And while I don't disagree, I think lots of those shots were savable, I do think it's unfair to single him out. The reality is that we conceded 4 or 5 or even more scoreable shots. And not just that, they were in the box, which is the last thing you want, while conceding as much territory as we did. We weren't pressing the ball in the midfield, and we were losing track of Victory's attackers in our box. Everything which could have gone wrong went wrong. I think after that game, there was a lot of work for Chiefy, not just tactically, but also motivationally, getting the team up to scratch for the next game.
Yeah, I think it's super unfair to kind of scapegoat McCarron there. He's a young goalkeeper, and that first goal, you can just see that both centre-backs thought the other one was going to pick up the player, and he was free to win a header. He didn't even win the header, just went onto his head. There was no contest whatsoever, and the two centre-backs are yelling at each other. Sure, you can also say that a more experienced goalkeeper there would be able to help usher players where they need to be, but ultimately, when you have a goalkeeper that's inexperienced like that, your senior centre-back should be the one to command that, and he let him out of his sight behind him, and it's just not good enough. And I think it was a second goal. Rufer just falls over at the drop of a hat running. You'd expect Rufer to be out stronger than that and to be able to win and contest that, but for some reason he just didn't manage to get anything on it, and there was another basically free header at the back to get that in. So the defence there was definitely poor from basically the same play from the first goal. It was copy and paste almost of it. And I don't think that was necessarily McCarron's fault that any of that should have happened. It shouldn't have really got to that stage in the first place. I think that there were moments in that game where I thought we probably could get something out of it. I think the start, we looked like we were up for the match. I think that there was a penalty call on Piper, which could have probably been a penalty. It's hard to see in the replays if the player even got the ball, but he kind of just has this foot high up against his legs and falls over from that. And I think being awarded that penalty could have shifted the momentum as well. But near the end, you can just kind of see that the players are walking. I think the last goal, the players aren't even getting back into position at all. They're walking back, and there's basically a free space on the left-hand side for their player to shoot, and the defence aren't reacting fast enough. So they've kind of dropped their heads a bit, and yeah, it was just not good overall in terms of actual football or mentality or any of that kind of stuff. And it was a pretty grim way to end the year, to be honest, but Happy New Year, everyone, 2026. Good things to come, I think.
Yeah, I agree about that Corbin Piper challenge as well. I think should have been a penalty. I think there's 2 feet going in. One of them, the trailing foot, the lower foot gets the ball, and then the top foot kind of collects Corbin Piper. And I guess VAR's just seen the bottom foot, got the ball, and go, yep, check, no penalty. But in my mind, it's reckless, and I think it should have been a penalty. And yeah, it does change the momentum from there on.
For sure. That is definitely, momentum is a lot in football. When you sort of, and we can talk about that in the next game as well. This was a very depressing, exasperating loss. Obviously, Vic Nix fans were there. They are long suffering when it comes to Amy Park. It's really crazy how many losses. I think we've won. Our last win at Amy Park was 2014. They were angry enough that at the end of the game, when Rufa came over, they gave him the Vic Nix banner and said they don't want it back until they win at Amy Park. So I don't know what Rufa's reaction was to that, but obviously they were very angry. I made the point, well, hey, what about the women? But they're actually getting a separate banner for the women. But that's how angry they were. And you came away from this and you're like, can Chiefy Ball get any worse this season? We can follow on with that, but I will start to talk about our Brisbane game because that was just miles apart. At KO Stadium in Redcliffe, so thankfully not at bloody Suncorp. I like KO Stadium. It's a good sized venue. Just a pity it's a bit far out of Brisbane proper, and the public transport isn't great. But 3-0 win. 6 minute. Eze just on his own fights for the ball. Long ball comes over and he puts it into the back of the net. The bit where we thought, oh no, we are stuffed. 38th minute. Carlo. He does that thing where like you take a too heavy a touch or you misplace a pass and you've lost the ball. And then your temptation is to rush in to win it back again. And that's where you can get injured or commit fouls. So he's gone in 2-footed. It was hard to tell on the angle whether it kind of looked like the Brisbane player had flown in effectively the same fashion, perhaps had just made more noise about it. And then there were a bit of handbags and pushing and shoving, and there potentially could have been more cards out of that, but it is what it is. So we thought, well, at least we're 1-0 up. That's a lot easier to hold on to a lead. 59th, Nagasawa from close to the top of the box, just directly in, really smooth. The 91st minute, this was a great goal. LBS picks up the ball really deep and he runs and runs and runs with it. The best part was Houston Salas, Phoenix reject, was sprinting to catch him and he nutmegs at full pace. He nutmegs Salas and then Salas falls over and has to roll because he's hit the ground that hard. And then, LBS is on a 1v1 with the keeper, but instead of shooting, he does something really mature as he knows that retro is coming, and then he doesn't have to worry about the keeper coming out and maybe getting a touch to it. Yes, so any thoughts on that game or, comparison to the first game?
Absolute chalk and cheese with this game. You could actually just see the players playing with passion as well, which is probably half the battle. I think coming in against a team like Brisbane Roar, who are grubby, I feel like you always kind of knew that there was going to be some kind of kick on that happens. For Carlo's red card, it looks like he took a poor touch because a player came in sliding at him with his studs up. He managed to avoid that. If that had made contact, I think that would have been a red card. But in doing so, he then turns and loses the ball and studs up into a foot. The angle wasn't overly clear. I didn't see a good image of it, but yeah, he gets studs up to the foot and he gets sent off, pushing and shoving around. And then for some reason, only Eze is the one who gets a yellow card. Roa Conchi at some point flips someone over his shoulder. So pretty decent fight, to be honest. But it's kind of good to see the team play with passion and pride, which I think coming from that 5-1 loss where they kind of had given up, it's kind of really good to see. Yeah, I've been really impressed with Eze as well. I think he's been a phenomenal find. Super random find as per a lot of the Knicks visa players, but I think that, yeah, we'll have him for one season and then we won't be able to afford him for a second season with the way he's been playing. And yeah, that third goal from Luke Brooks-Smith is incredible to see. Kind of thought we were in Seaworld with the way that dolphin was flipping around, but it was kind of good to see him take the cutback pass and just to secure that third goal. I think 2-0, I wasn't feeling confident. Even 3-0, I was like, oh gosh, how are we going to nix this up? But yeah, to get that win, start the new year off with the 3 points, great to see.
Yeah, I do feel a little bit bad for Armiento getting the red card because I think both players are going in, diving in, studs up, and basically whoever got there last was going to get sent off. At the end of the day, I probably would have given a red for the same thing, studs up. Like, referee had good vision straight on, and you could see he was going to give the red card before the fight broke out, just kind of delayed it a wee bit. But tactically, pretty much the same thing that I said we did poorly in the game against Victory, we did well here. Instead of letting the other team dominate the midfield and kind of concede heaps of territory, we actually put pressure on the ball and we made sure that every loose ball in the middle third was ours. I really like the defensive line. I think the last 5 or so games have kind of been a story of Chiefy figuring out the right mix between high and low for the defensive line, and I actually really think he found a good balance in this game. It gave us the right mix of midfield pressure and kind of we weren't so unbelievably high that all it takes is one well-timed run to break the line and score a goal. We also pushed Raw out quite wide, isolated their wingers, so overall big tactical improvement. The first goal, I really like this first goal. I think it's something that we've been kind of trying to do quite a lot this season and it hasn't really worked out yet. It's a great ball from McCarron. Eze's kind of made those sorts of runs every game, and previously he's run onto the trajectory of the ball, which means he'd get there if there wasn't a defender, and mostly every defender has cut out the ball. But this time, finally, a defender makes a mistake and his run works. He's been really resilient making those runs time and time again with no reward. So I'm happy for him that he scored. And hopefully he can make more of those runs because they can strike quite a lot of indecision into defenders. Inexperienced defenders like you often see in the A-League, having a striker run in behind like that and having such little time to act on the ball, that's kind of just calling for mistakes, especially from an inexperienced defender. It's the type of goal that makes you thankful that he plays in the A-League, because any better league and that gets cut out by the defender every single time. And then the second goal, another great run by Eze. I think he's improved quite a lot on the ball in the past 2 games, because before this game, I've kind of felt he's been guilty of facing forward a bit too much and not being technical on the ball enough to pull it off, But he's pulled off a really great run there. Picks it up from just outside our box and kind of beaten heaps of players, dribbled into the attacking half, which is great, and, set up a goal.
I know they're sort of different playing styles in a way, but is Eze shaping up to be as good as Zavada was? I mean, think about when he was not injured, how good Zavada was by just getting the ball on his own, being able to create goals. Obviously, we're only half a season through, but actually, how many years have we signed Eze for? Is it 2 seasons or 1? I'm not sure. But either way, it feels like we've got another striker of that kind of caliber, which is amazing. And a lot of people criticize, like, oh, we've signed someone from the Iraq League. But no, he can make something of nothing. That's what's incredible. I think Raw was in it more than perhaps it looks to be. Apparently their XG was 2.7. Maybe I wrote that down wrong. It doesn't seem right. But anyway, they were called offside a bunch of times. But they had 21 shots, 5 on target. We only had 9 with 4 on target. They were definitely in the game, but we just were managing to score the goals. One of my favourite, so obviously the best part of that game was LBS nutmegging Houston Salas, but that was a bit far away from the away bay, which was packed out, by the way. We had a great time in the away bay. Vidic thought he'd scored, but he was offside again. He was caught offside so many times, but he didn't think to check whether the lino had put their flag up. And so he turns around, he does this celebration where he puts his ear and then he does this stupid thing where he covers his mouth and points, and he's just wheeled away, and it's probably not intentional, but he's basically running towards the away bay, and we can see the flag, and man, we're giving him shit about it. It was great. It was one of the great moments of the game. So much fun. Another thing to mention is Chiefs presser after the game. He seemed really emotional. And in fact, he said it was his best win ever, which is kind of crazy when you think about that first season in particular where we got crazy wins. He said it's his best win ever as a coach. Do you agree with that?
I mean, I think it's up to him. What is his best win ever is. I think it's a great win. And, it snaps our streak of bad form, in a time where he might even be worried about his job. I think it could be quite a good win for him, yeah. Just touching on Eze and the comparison to Zavada. The goal he scored, I can't remember who it was against. It was a header. I can't remember who. But, it was a ball into the box, and it was kind of curving. The cross was kind of curving away from the ball, and he wraps his head around it really nicely and guides into the top bins. That was quite reminiscent of Zavada. Got me a bit emotional just thinking about him.
All right, so our next game up is home versus Adelaide. Adelaide again in fairly short succession. That is Sunday, 3 p.m. at Sky Stadium. We beat them the first time. Craig Goodwin was pretty quiet, if I remember, and if you can keep Craig Goodwin quiet, that helps. Any thoughts on Adelaide? Alex, I'm assuming you'll be there?
Yeah, I think I'll be there. And we had a good performance at home last time against them. I mean, to be honest, it's kind of hard to predict what's going to happen in a Wellington Phoenix men's game at the moment. We've just been all over the place. 5-1 loss, then a 3-0 win the next week. I'm not as bold as that to make a prediction. At home, hopefully we can keep up the momentum.
Yeah, Adelaide just got their asses handed to them by Central Coast at home a few days ago. That was such a grim watch for any Adelaide fans. It was quite entertaining for me, watching teams get destroyed by teams at the bottom of the table. And so, yeah, it's either that they're in a bad place at the moment, or they're either going to come back firing up from that game, because that was a disappointing loss for them. But once again, Craig Goodwin was quiet in that game as well, and so who knows what's going to happen. I feel like this, you can't really tell what's happening in any of the games in the A-League at the moment, because everyone's beating everyone, and anything could happen. So I think we can get a win from this if we played like we did against the Raw. I think that we should be able to do it.
So we'll move to the women, who have been on a bit more of a run. First game went really well. Second game we'll get to. So first one was versus Wanderers. It was at Wanderers Football Park. I like going out there. The stand's small, you're so close to the ground. It was packed. They had, by hundreds of people, they had the biggest crowd that they'd ever had out there. I think they had like 1,600 or something like that. It was packed. There was no room in the stands. Like, people were just like standing along the side. I'd say 90% of the crowd was Nepalese, there to support Samba. Obviously, they got really excited when the Knicks scored as well, and then a good little corner of yellow turnout, as always. So 3-1 win. Samba plays a shot, and Emma Main just sort of pokes it in. The 7th minute, so the 8th minute, Samba off a none cross that's not cleared, and Samba just puts it in the back of the net. 52nd minute, not too long after, Samba sort of breaks away. Forward and a square pass to Emma Main. Player of the match for this one was Samba Main, a very close second. It was good. We had, Wanderers were poor. Both teams had 10 shots, but Wanderers did not have a single shot on target. Like Vic Essen had almost nothing to do. It was crazy. We did start really strong at the beginning of the halves. I have to say, further on into the halves, we would let them back in a little bit, but they just, like I said, not a single shot on target for them. Any thoughts on that one, Erin?
Yeah, the Sister City Cup is still with us. I think coming from that Sydney FC game where we were spoiled with just how we played and the goals we got, I found this game to be just a little bit disappointing because I thought that we should be able to take it a lot more to Western Sydney. They're not very good and they haven't been very strong. They haven't really been scoring goals and they've kind of been conceding a lot. I thought that we would have done a lot better, but I think me complaining about a 3-0 win away for the women is insane. So I'm probably going to stop myself there. But yeah, it's been kind of good to see the team kind of come together, start scoring a bit more. Samba looking threatening even when she's not scoring. She's kind of always involved in the play. Brooke Nunn is shining out there. Her strength, just her grit, is kind of probably what we've been missing a little bit in the team. And just, our defense has kind of been pretty solid. I think the goals that we have conceded this season, not many have been from open play. Usually it's kind of some kind of set piece. I think there's been a penalty, a free kick, a corner. And then the first goal against Canberra was, who knows what that was, a question mark, kind of a miss kick from Vandermeer there. And so the defense has been solid. And it's been a really good team to watch. And so 3-0 win away, I'll take it. But I think that we need to make sure that we can kind of stay consistent because we did drop off a little bit. And I think good teams would be able to punish us a lot more than Western Sydney could ever manage to do.
Yeah, look, I think this game we don't really need to speak about this game for that long. We scored 3 goals. We won. Wanderers do have the odd good player. Pam Karmas made some really good saves. And because she didn't punch anybody in the head this game, she didn't get sent off. Yeah, they've got Berryhill, formerly Lagazo, and they've got some young talent as well. So they do have the ability. They drew with Canberra recently, and Canberra's like being top of the league. So, but yeah, I think otherwise a fairly average game. No big talking points, honestly, except for just the Nepalese turnout was absolutely crazy. We couldn't believe it. It was such a buzz.
It sounded and looked incredible on the broadcast as well. I'm not sure where they had the mics, but I mean, it sounded like a home game for us. I feel like there was Raw chants, there was Phoenix chants, and then the main one was just a Samba chant. And I'm glad that she got her goal and 2 assists for that crowd because it just, it looked fantastic. And it's great to have a player in the league who kind of draws that kind of crowd in. I feel like this is, I guess, probably one of the biggest stars we've had in the league in terms of just, fan power and just national love. I don't know if we could, if I can't name any other player from any other country really who could do that.
It's definitely a successful marquee signing in terms of support and buzz. I mean, Wanderers would have been stoked with how many tickets they sold. They might have even made a profit on that game, which isn't very common with the dub. When the dub first started, and to be fair, it wasn't followed as much at that point, they were attracting some pretty big stars, particularly from the US. I think even Megan Rapinoe was there at one stage. Fishlock, there were quite a lot of players who were playing in the NWSL and then playing in the A-League. So there have been bigger stars, but we've really capitalized with, a player with like the diaspora behind them. And it has been absolutely incredible. Let's talk about the next match, which was a little bit more talking point. Of the match for that game was Mac. She is solid every game. She barely makes a mistake. She put in some tackles that basically saved goals. This one, I think we dominated the game, but we really struggled to score. We really struggled to score. I mean, we got 16 shots off with 6 on target, but still struggling to score. We go ahead first of all. It's Mania Elliott, long range stunner. She picks up the ball way out of the box, sees that the keeper is out, and just bangs it, and it gets into the goal. Really, really nice goal. And then you're thinking, okay, good. We're going on a run. 17th minute, Miller. I feel like this one was maybe affected by an offside because there's a player that runs across Vic Essend's line of sight that was offside. The lino and the centre ref did have a quick chat at the end of that goal, and they must have decided from their angles, which is all they've got, was that it didn't affect the play. Looking at the broadcast, I think it probably did affect the play. Is what it is. Piazza with a long-range stunner. Vic Essen comes out to punch. I don't know if it was a free kick or a corner. She punches it. It goes away, and then she's backtracking to set herself in the goal. And she's just about set herself when that long range strike comes back, and she just can't get to it. And you know what? To be fair, maybe it was unsavable anyway. So at that point, everyone in the crowd is just like, oh my God, it's standard Phoenix women. We score the first goal, and now we're going to lose 2-1 because it happens over and over again. Brooke Nunn. Clearly that was a cross because when it left her boot, she turned around and looked really frustrated with herself. But she catches the keeper off guard and we rescue a point. Thoughts, Alex?
Yeah, I think our backline was a bit guilty of being flat at times, and I think Brisbane kind of worked around us quite well. They played within our midfield really nicely, and that meant they could hit us on the counter-attack out wide, which kind of pushed apart our back three. And then, once that happens, space starts opening up everywhere. We've reclaimed the curse of not scoring shots that you should be scoring. We hit the woodwork twice. We blocked our own shots. We had goal line clearances. Whatever we did, we could not score. So I think we're a bit unlucky in that regard. But then we were also very lucky with the shots that we did take and we did score because, 2 very low XG, 2 shots that you take, and 99 times out of 100, you don't score. But luckily we had the 1 time out of 100 twice in this game and, we rescued a point. I don't think we can be too reliant on that in the future, and I think we kind of got to tidy up our midfield a wee bit. Even Emma Pynenberg put in there for the first time. I don't think she played too badly, but I think she certainly could benefit from a bit of time to gel with the team and to get up to scratch with tactics.
I agree with Alex there. I think the defence were probably a bit guilty of maybe just not reacting fast enough to some of that play, flat-footedness, and maybe just not being used to teams actually taking a shot on target at us. And the fact that they had 2 shots on target and they scored both of them, it's probably a bit we haven't really been tested that much. And I think the Raw maybe a bit more physical than some of the other teams we've played as well. The refereeing was a bit crazy. I think they've called 4 offsides at the start of the game where none of them were offsides for both teams. And then I guess the one where you think is actually offside, they don't call. It's kind of the way it's going. At one point, Mac got suplexed and choke slammed into the ground. And so it was a pretty physical game. I think a draw is probably a fair result, seeming that we couldn't take our chances. But the chances we did get, I don't know what Chloe Lincoln was doing. I think she was poorly positioned for Mania Elliott's shot. And that second one, I don't know if it did some hoodoo magic in the air, but it was kind of just floating. It's probably a routine save for a goalkeeper, but, we'll take it. It's kind of these kind of games where championships are made, and we're finally at the end of it now where we are getting the points from the games rather than dropping the points from the games. And so I guess pretty happy all around that we kind of got another point on the road as well, and we can come back to Porirua Park undefeated in 2026 and keep pushing to cement our place in that top 6.
Yeah, it was just such a relief when none scored, because you had that sense of dread, and we really went nuts in the away bay when that happened, because there were these lads down from Cairns. They were there and they had brought all their mates along, and man, they were well lubricated, and they stayed for the women's game, and they even fell over celebrating when that goal went in. So yeah, a precious point on the road, and we've sort of dropped points, or not even necessarily dropped points from being in a leading position. But I mean, you think about Perth, you think about City, games where we really should have got something out of them, but didn't. I did also feel like the ref, I don't mind mistake calls if it's sort of even, but it felt like every call that was 50-50 went to Brisbane, and then some of the calls that really clearly should have been for us also went to Brisbane. Refs are doing the best that they can with there's no VAR for them. They are stuck with the decision. They don't have that fallback for those big calls, because I said that first goal potentially could have been called offside had there been VAR. So it was frustrating. It was really frustrating to see stuff not called. But look, that's what happens, unfortunately. And look, we're fifth with games in hand. City is above us, and they also have games in hand. Everybody else has played 10 above us. So we've really got some extra potential. You can't count those chickens till you hatch, but we've got potential points, up our sleeve if we can get those. Next match is home versus City. Now, obviously, we let Rebecca Stott drift away and score against us quite late in that game away. That was quite frustrating, especially because I felt like we were probably the better team. But we'll be at home this time. So that's on Saturday at 4 p.m. New Zealand time, Porirua Park. I think if we're going to beat City, and I'm not sure we've ever beaten City. I don't think we've ever beaten City. I can have a look, but now's the time. Now's the time to beat City. And hopefully we have CJ back, because that was the reason that Pynenberg, started and played most of the game. And of course, she's not as used to our system. She's just sort of been plopped there from kickoff. I mean, it did mean we got Captain Mac, and we all love a Captain Mac, but I haven't heard what has happened with CJ. I hope she's okay. I hope that she's back as soon as possible, because they're going to bully her again. Because that's what happened last time. They just, every time she received the ball, there were two of them on her, kicking her, trying to get the ball. And that might happen again, because maybe that's just the way that City played. Alex, you'll be there. Are you confident or hopeful, or where are you at for this one?
I don't really know how to feel, to be honest. I think Brisbane kind of provided the blueprint to other teams for beating us. The way they, shut down, nullified our midfield, and basically made it hard for us to play at the back was really good. They kind of made a box with their two strikers preventing pass backs to our centre backs, and then the two midfielders cutting off passing lanes forward, which meant we kind of had to switch it out wide, which we probably should have more. We need to diversify our play a wee bit and push out wide more, which is something I hope we can look for into the next game. Lucia Leon also shout out against Brisbane. I think she was great off the bench, great catalyst on the break when she came on. I'd like to see her start.
So we have, in fact, not even picked up a point against Melbourne City before. 7 games, 7 losses. So hopefully we can change that fate. I think CJ Bott got a leg injury against Western Sydney. She came off early in that game, I think from a tackle of some sort. And we also had Samba go down near the end of the game against Brisbane. So I hope that she's back in action, because I think if we have neither of those two, we might struggle a little bit against Melbourne City. I'm still hopeful, though. I'm still backing the Fortress. Melbourne City only beat Sydney 1-0, so I'm assuming we're going to beat Melbourne City 6-0.
That would be fantastic. Could you imagine? I think the key for City is nullifying, or at least lessening, the impact that my least favourite Holly has, because she's on fire. I think she scored a hat-trick recently. Might have been their last game or the game before. She's just sort of on fire. And I think, if Mac or Marisa can really put them in their pockets, put her in their pockets, then I think we do have a very good chance. I believe McNamara didn't play all of the last time that we played them, or was she on? I can't quite remember. I feel like she didn't have that much influence on the game, and we were lucky but she could turn around and have a cracker and score a hat trick again against us. So I feel like that's the key element for me to try and get something out of that game. And yeah, I really hope that Samba's okay. That actually reminds me, so Samba came off and Samba went over the goal line, and obviously she was subbed off because there was a Brisbane Roar player who came off with injury, and you know how you're supposed to return to the field from the sideline? She was not made to go from the sideline. She returned to play from the goal line. That's the kind of refereeing we had. So yeah, but anyway, I hope like hell Samba's okay, and that we get a good Nepali turnout at the Fortress, and that sell some of the momos, right? Honestly, if you're there, go to the Nepalese truck and get some momos. Any final thoughts? We've covered a lot of games today, which I
get a momo.
Not to. You get maybe a momo.
Maybe it'll cover us extending Samba's contract.
Yes.
I'm actually going to this game, and I'll try to look at the game the least, because we're yet to score while I've been watching at home so far this season. I wasn't there for the 7-0, so I'll just be facing the other way the whole time. And
put him in the Momo truck. Go work on the Momo truck, away from the field, and just serve the Momos to the people.
Otherwise, just face the stand, just face the stand, or
I could be a conductor for the Yellow Fever.
Yes, be the capo, because obviously if you have a big active, then you need a capo that faces the active. There are some actives that are not big enough for that, but they still do that. Either way, yes, that could be what you do. You could get the drum. You could get the drum out. You can do it. You could do it, Alex. You can sacrifice your enjoyment of the game for the greater good of our teams.
I'll just go to the toilet a lot, maybe.
Yeah, you just stay in the...
Just stand behind all the Nepalese flags and you won't be able to see the field and you'll be fine.
Oh my God, they gave out so many yellow Phoenix flags at Sydney, and then they ran out and they went straight to Brisbane. And they're like, where are all the flags to give out? And Tony, the team manager's like, we don't have any left. What a great... Oh my God, that was great at Wanderers. Okay, well, I will leave everybody be, and goodbye from Alex and Erin, and we should be back to our regular schedule from now. Thank you. Matawa.